Welcome to the Winback Marketing Podcast. There's gold buried in your lost customers. And in this podcast, you'll learn how sales and marketing leaders mine that gold using Winback Marketing. This week, I'm talking with customer retention strategist Anita, aka the Chief Churn Crusher. In this episode, Anita shares her insights into customer retention, Winback, and how to get a deep understanding of why your customers churn. Anita is a true master of her craft, and I think you'll get a lot of takeaways from this episode. Welcome, Anita. Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, glad to be here, Dan. Thank you.
Before we get to Winback, could you tell me a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I call myself a Chief Churn Crusher. That's my official title. And it's all about crushing churn. And the specific way we do this is through really getting to know your customers intimately through voice of customer programs and customer feedback. And prior to this, 20 plus years of working in an academic research institute where all we did all day long were qualitative research methods like interviews, focus groups, and surveys. So customer feedback and getting deep customer insights it's my favorite thing in the world, I think. Honestly, I simply love it.
Wow. All that data for you to make sense of?
You know what? It's not even making sense of the data. My favorite part is when we're reporting to our clients and seeing aha moments. Like they learn. In all the years I've been doing this, I've never yet, now that I'm putting it out there, it will probably happen, but I've never yet had a client say, oh, we knew everything. There's always something that either surprised them, they absolutely were blown away, had no idea about, both positive and negative. It's not just negative thing. And I think that's the favorite part of the whole job to me is getting those insights and delivering those insights that our clients didn't have that can better help them retain and serve their customers.
Could you share one of your favorite Winback stories?
Okay, it's a big company, big corporation, but I like what they do. And so I'm going to share the story of Starbucks. And I think a part of it is with Winback and even communicate across the board with customers. You really get a feel of what's a priority for a company. So Starbucks has always taken this sort of friendly approach, like even how their stores are designed. It's not necessarily for efficiency to push people in and out, but they have seating areas with certain lighting to give a feel that they want you to kind of stick around. So I have this one. It's from actually the Starbucks store. And you open it up and it says, "Come back. We miss you." Not here's the offer and 10% off, or they come with that. And the reason why to me this is so appealing is because it feels like you have a friend who maybe you lost some touch. You just went out of touch for a little bit. Come back. We miss you. So it's not just we miss you, but they're telling you what they'd like to see in the relationship. Come back. We miss you. And then at the end of that, they actually say, I'll read it to you. It says, "We notice you haven't stopped by in a while." Again, it's building this whole story about what type of relationship that Starbucks has with their customers. And is there something you're having trouble finding on the site? If so, let us know. We'd be happy to help. And then comes the offer. And that's one of the things I really like. So it says, or if you're looking for a paid deal, here you go. You can get 15% off your next offer. So they put the relationship first versus the discount, the offer that's trying to win you back. And that's what I really like about what Starbucks has done is it's showing not only in how they've structured that email, but the relationship matters more than just here's your discount. Let's get some money. Let's get some revenues in. So it very much speaks to what their brand is, which is building a long-term relationship with their customers.
I would imagine, like in your churn work, it's emotionally tough, isn't it, for a company to go and say, hey, why did you churn?
Yeah, it really is, which is why our clients hire us. We're a third party who comes in. We don't have that emotional investment. The other thing we don't have are preconceived notions about why these customers are churning. Over time, you do start hearing some of the reasons, but with our clients, we have found that sometimes they are spot on with the reasons, and sometimes there's a couple other reasons that they didn't even know about. So they bring us on to be able to have that distance emotionally, to also not bias the customers that we're speaking to with their preconceived ideas, or lead them to answers that they expect to hear. Yeah, it's one of the best things you can do. I have an entire thing on what we call exit interviews. So if it's a big client or customer that's leaving, that's paying 5, 6, 7 figures, generally there's some sort of cancellation policy, or there's a way the cancellation has to happen. That is the perfect time to then ask, hey, can we have what we call an exit interview, where you have an opportunity to then speak with them in a standardized way. So with the same questions, every single customer you're speaking to that's exiting, and then ask them those questions. That's one of the things we do. One of the harder things to do is to reach out to clients or customers once they've churned. It becomes really challenging because it becomes an out of sight, out of mind. And if you don't start reaching out within a couple of days of them leaving, it gets really hard to recruit them a week or 2 or a month after they've left. And we have what's called recency bias with humans. And that is that we remember what's happened relatively near to the time period we're at, but I can't remember exactly 3 months ago why I churned, or maybe I know a couple of reasons, but you really can't dig down to understand what were the thought processes that led to the decision to leave. And that's really what you want to understand, right? How did you rationalize your decision to leave, as well as what were the reasons that you chose to leave?
So what's in it for, say it was a client of whomever, and I left and they said, hey, go find out why Dan left. What's my motivation for taking your call?
As someone who's just left,
Yeah.
yeah, that can be a challenge. So there's different things. I don't like to use the word incentive. I like to see it more as thank you, appreciation. We appreciate your time. One of the biggest ones is financial. So offering some sort of financial thank you or appreciation. Sometimes it's people just want to do it because perhaps I've done it before. I've taken these calls after I've churned and been interviewed by the company because I actually really liked the company, but circumstances forced me to churn. So I did it. They didn't pay me anything. It was interesting hearing that this is one of the big services we offer, to be on the other side. And it was an employee who did it. It was interesting. They did a pretty good job. And then the third camp is sometimes people who are really ticked off, who want to just air everything. Now, I would say upwards of 80% or so would be financial motivation to want to do it. It gets very hard, especially if they're in the C-suite or they're in that suite of decision makers. If you sell service to larger companies, they're not going to want to take the time unless it's worth their time to do it. So it really depends on who your customers are. If it's a lower price product, let's say like Starbucks store, they could offer something that would be enticing or interesting for their customers to take. But you have to try a bunch of different things, and it
Right.
really depends on who it is that you're speaking with.
So let's just say it's a $20,000 contract. It's not
Yep.
cheap. It's not expensive. And so say there were like 4 points of contact in the company. There was like, say the CMO had something to do with it, head of marketing, and then there was like, say a director of marketing. You've got those 3 contacts and they churn. Now, how would you approach that? Can you really give a financial incentive for something that's a $20,000 product? Can you say, can I have $100 gift certificate for your time? Does that work?
That's what we do. That's what we do. But it has to be, depending on who it is that you're speaking to, a CMO for $100 for 30 minutes may or may not do that, but that
Right.
might be appealing for a director or a head of marketing. Yeah, that's precisely what we do.
Wow.
Yeah, that is the appreciation thank you gift that you're giving. Like, for their insight, but really it's their time. They will never get that back. So when companies come to us, I have to let them know this is our base price. However, You're going to have to budget in depending on who it is that we're targeting. And if it's that C-suite or those really key decision makers that are high up in the company, you're going to have to offer a bigger financial incentive than, let's say, to an end user or a B2C small customer lifetime value. That's not quite right because you could be a Starbucks user for life, but a small product that's maybe a couple $100 at maximum.
So 80% of the time, it's financial. You reach out. It doesn't matter if they're in the C-suite or sweeping the floors. It's the same thing.
Yep. You come with that. And the other 20% are those then people who want to do it regardless of the financial you're offering financially. Right. They want to do it because they either really love the product and they want to give you feedback, as I did, or it's the opposite where they're really ticked off and they just want to let you have it. And they'll still both take that financial or appreciation thank you gift, right, but it's not necessarily their key motivation.
Right. So I would imagine you would need to present that in a very nice way. So say you're offering $500 to a CFO, or you can't just say, can I buy a half hour of your time? Like, how do you say that?
So that Starbucks, I'm glad we led with it, with the Winback, that it's about appreciating their unique position as a customer. You have to come out and say, we're sorry it didn't work out. And it doesn't matter who's to blame. We're sorry to see you leave. It's putting that relationship first, not give us insights, we'll give you money. I think and companies do that. I've seen it. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's putting the customer first. And always asking yourself when you're doing this, how would I feel if I got this? Does this email read that the company really cares about me? Or does it feel like they just want to pay me for my time to get some insights? Yeah. That Starbucks example is probably one of the best. Come back, we miss you. So you really have to carefully word it. And then we always try to give options when we can, because monetary isn't always, now we're getting into the details of all of it. But essentially, some of our clients just want to give something like an Amazon gift card. Most people can use that. It's also very easy to administer. Some companies want to offer like actual gifts and ship them depending on the company that they are. So it might be another product that they have if they have products. So it's all sorts of different things, Dan. But the biggest is, you got to, when you're writing that as a marketer, that campaign, you got to ask those first few sentences. If I were to get this in my inbox, how would I feel when I read it? Do I feel like the company really cares and really wants to know my input and that it matters? And this is the biggest, that something will be done with it?
Right.
Or does it feel very transactional and that, sorry you're leaving, but here's X amount of dollars if you want to talk to us for 30 minutes?
Yeah, I would think we take this very seriously. Your input is going to help us move forward and serve our clients better in the future. And we're going to come back to you after we take action on what you've done. We're going to let you know because we're serious at this. So I think I just love your approach.
Thank you.
No, I think it's really super.
Thanks.
You're treating people like people and you're getting the knowledge you need. And I guess the next part is, how do you get honest opinions? So here you are. Here's Anita, team coming in, and they're all nice, wonderful people. They don't know you from Adam, so there's no emotional baggage to deal with.
No.
So how do you get real answers?
You have to build trust in the first 5 minutes or so, especially the first couple minutes. We do have a script that is used specifically for that. And one of the big things, so here you go. Ooh, this is expert tip number 1 right here. You have to let people know at the beginning of the interview that they can skip any question or quit at any time, and it will not affect that appreciation thank you gift. They will still get it.
Fantastic.
If there's one thing, that's it. Because if people feel locked in, then, different people have different motivations, remember, for taking this interview.
Yeah.
But when you give them that out, then it's like you can almost see people visibly relax because we do most of this by Zoom. You can see people like, just relax, just a touch. And that's what starts opening it up. And the other thing, and this is so key if a company is going to do this, is you are there to listen to them. You may ask and probe for deeper answers, but this is not an opportunity in these exit or churn interviews to try to win back. I want to be very clear. It is not a win back attempt. You are there to listen and gather information and to just let the customer have their space, whether you agree with what they're saying or not. And that's why it's really important to have, if it makes sense to hire a third party to come in, because when you're in the company, your life is very much affected by how many customers stay and how many customers leave. It gets very difficult to not want to, like I said, lead a customer to an answer, or worse yet, win them back, or worse yet, trying to convince them that their view is wrong. And if they only tried this, they would have found the answer that they were looking for instead of canceling.
So they've just told you where you fell short, what you need to improve. The whole purpose of this, there's a lot of purposes, but one of the big purposes is to turn that churn around, isn't it? And when does that happen?
So then you have to go through and analyze all the data you've collected. And there are specific ways to do that so that you can start tracking things over time, and then also start seeing what are the themes that are coming up. And once you've done that, then you've got to go back into meetings and discuss, what are we going to do about it? Because churn is an end result. It is not the event. The event or events that led up to the churn obviously happened before. So that's what you're really trying to figure out in these meetings. Is it product? Is it the service? Is it the customer journey? Is it customer support? Is it, and I've got to say this, Dan, very rarely is price the real answer to why they leave, but it's one of the first answers that's given. It was too expensive. And you're like, okay, let's dig further and unpack this. Price becomes the justification because they don't feel they're getting the value from the product or service. And so it no longer justifies paying that much. But price is very rarely the true response.
So I'm just thinking, I'm really angry at some company. They were supposed to do X, Y, and Z. They didn't do half of it. It cost us a fortune. So I'm really angry. And one of Anita's team members comes up and calls me, and I can vent. So now instead of going to LinkedIn, going to Trustpilot, going to G2 and spewing all this anger, I get to express my feelings. You're going to listen with caring and empathy. You give people the opportunity to speak and you fix the problem. In my experience, a lot of them come back and they become advocates. So there's positive word of mouth. You get back the referrals, you get back the upsells, the cross sells, the add-ons. There's a massive payoff for doing that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So all those things you described are second order revenues, right?
Yeah.
Renewals, referrals, cross sells, upsells, positive word of mouth marketing. Those are all second order revenues that come from this process. And now this is specifically to B2B SaaS, but one of the big names, his name's Jason Lemkin, back of the envelope said, this is 2x your current customer lifetime value just in those second order revenues. Like it is, you are right. It is massive. And so some of those things are difficult to quantify. I get positive word of mouth marketing is difficult to quantify, or you can quantify the upsells, the cross sells, the renewals, sometimes referrals, sometimes not, depending on your business. But then you at least have that positive word of mouth marketing. And we know how critical that is. If anybody questions how critical it is, just go to Amazon and have a look through the reviews.
Right.
And then when you're making your decisions on which products you want, or Trustpilot or G2 or wherever you're going, that positive word of mouth marketing can really have a big impact on those potential customers. Yeah, it is really important to try to reduce churn before it happens, and then give customers who have churned an opportunity to talk. And surveys are not it. Surveys are a monologue. The only dialogue you're going to have is either through focus groups or interviews. And focus groups are really hard to run in this particular instance because you want to get the details, especially if they're a higher paying client. You want to get their specific details to see if other customers in that same segment are going through the same things. This is the most important thing, is you start comparing and contrasting between your different customer segments. And in getting that data, you start noticing, oh, so our lower tier customers are doing this, but our upper tier are doing this. And you can't get that without full on speaking to customers. Surveys are a monologue. Like I just can't say that enough.
And so 5 customers churned, you go and you talk to those 5 customers.
Yep.
Now you've got this window into something that might be going wrong within your company. So it doesn't only help take care of the negative word of mouth. Maybe there's a win back in there, but you can apply those insights to your retention protocols.
Yeah,
That's another
absolutely.
huge win.
Absolutely. And one more before I forget, you just mentioned it and I was like, oh yeah, this is really good. And with respect to Winback. So in giving customers the opportunity to have an interview, to speak. And again, you cannot, if you're a higher volume company, you can't do this with everyone. And let's face it, not everyone's going to want to speak with you anyway. Depending on the company, the reasons for churning, all of that, you might just get 10% of people who you put the offer out to talk to you. But those people who have their customer interviews, and then you give them that appreciation thank you gift. And again, we have a little script that goes at the end. You are leaving the relationship on either if they are extremely unhappy, you're leaving the relationship not with them extremely unhappy. Maybe they've moved up to neutral. You'd be surprised how often that happens during the course of an interview where they get to just share everything that was frustrating to them. Or if they were neutral, you could sometimes move them up to happy or just slightly less neutral. And the point is that they are leaving on a more positive note. So when you come back in 90 days or however long it is with a win-back campaign, the opportunity for it to be successful increases because you have left that relationship on a more positive footing.
And I would imagine that you wouldn't say, can we contact you in 90 days with that? You want to leave it as clean as possible because that will make it a little bit icky, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't say anything about that at the end of the interview. Again, the expert tip, what we share, you ask them for their best email. And then very quickly, within a day or two, you send them that appreciation thank you gift. You don't wait a week. You don't wait 10 days. You do it immediately. And again, why does that matter? Because you are putting a high value on their time and the insights they gave you. So you got it like at every step of the way, you are reinforcing that the relationship is important. And that's what we do. We never talk about, can we reach out in 90 days? Can we? None of that there. Because then again, it flips the focus from thank you for your time. We really appreciate your insights to then now you're already looking for the revenue.
Yeah,
just leave it. Yeah. Just leave it on that high note.
Tremendous stuff.
Absolutely. And we've even heard from our clients sometimes when they've gone through this process, like they've hired us, we did the interviews with their customers, we got those appreciation thank you gifts out very quickly to them, that sometimes within the first 90 days, they come back. And it's because of what you just said.
Wow.
It's because they felt valued and heard. And that was all they needed. They went to a competitor because they were ticked off and things maybe aren't so rosy on that other side with the competitor. And then they realized the other thing sometimes we see with the interviews is as people are talking through and giving their reasons, they realize then that their reasons maybe aren't as strong as they thought they were initially.
Yeah.
And it's because that emotion's gotten in the way, right? They're ticked off about this and I'm ticked off about this. And then they have that space and then they go, oh, wait a minute, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Exactly.
So there's tons of ways to leave the relationship on a good note. It's two things, right? You're leaving the opportunity open for customers to come back on their own or to approach them with a win back that is more likely to have positive results than if they just walk away because they didn't have that last chance to have the final word, if you will.
Yeah, what you're saying is just resonating on so many levels. There's so many things about this that I just love.
Yeah. And it fits very well with what you do with Winback, right?
Yeah, this is why I really wanted to have you on the show. You understand what works, what doesn't, what motivates people to do what they do.
And then how are your customers' needs changing? Like clients should be coming to us and asking that question. Exactly. How is the market changing? How are our customer needs changing? And what can we do that's not a major pivot, but to be able to keep them longer? There's always low lying fruit. But you have to go to your customers and find out. You've got to interview them. You don't have to wait until they churn to find out. There's different parts along the customer journey where we do this. Our focus is mostly on churn and exit interviews, but we also do post onboarding interviews. And then I don't want to say midway, but between onboarding and churning, different parts of the customer journey to say, okay, let's go and talk to 30 or 40 of our customers from this segment and 30 or 40 from this segment. Let's compare it all and see, what do we actually have that's either really easy to create or that's available that is underused to upsell or cross-sell to these existing to our existing customer base.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that much. And so I really wish that companies would see that they have a lot of low-lying fruit right there, but they're just more focused on the messages that they're getting from outside about the market conditions. And then I'm not saying that won't affect them, but it's like, what can we do internally here? We keep as many of our customers as possible without being so outwardly focused on the market or all of that.
When I take a look at the kind of attention that's given to new customer acquisition, I mean, it's 8.5 out of 10. And I take a look at customer success and retention, that might be 1.5 out of 10. Why isn't that part of our business culture where we're putting a lot more resources into keeping what we've got?
Because it's not sexy. Marketing and sales, it's tactical, it's fun, it's sexy, it's let's try this, let's try that. Like, you're not building deep relationships in marketing and sales. Some people in sales, depending on what you're selling, have longer term relationships. But post-sale, especially for customer success teams who we work with, it's the marriage isn't as sexy as when you're in the honeymoon phase or when you're dating. And that's really what it is. We have this weird, they're at conflicts. We have a need for novelty and what's new and keep things thrilling. And at the same time, we crave comfort. We crave dependability, consistency. So these two things, you can literally see it at the customer line there, pre-sales and post-sales. Retention is not sexy. And for the longest time with companies, our acquisition costs, yeah, they were important. And you often saw CEOs or board members very comfortable with sales and marketing. But the post-sale side, especially like I work with customer success teams, this is new. And they're not it's more touchy-feely. And they don't really want to deal with that. Now, so I work mostly with software service companies with customer success teams. The really good SaaS companies are the ones that have high customer retention. So Salesforce is one of the biggest that has actually grown its business primarily. I think they're at like net revenue retention. It's about 130%. So they are growing the company mostly on their existing customers, not on new acquisitions. But the rest of the business world hasn't caught up to that yet. And so you've got to have this blend of sexy new and marriage, if you will, and the focus on both.
Right. I really don't get that. Like, the math for SaaS is so clear. What does it cost? Like 12 to 18 months for CAC payback, right?
Yep.
And then if you include onboarding payback, you're up to 24 months now. Don't they have curves that show?
They do. They do. And I have shown them. We're paraded out and say, look, it makes sense. I think, and I'll come out first time saying this publicly, I will come out and say it. I think the reason still comes back to the fact the post-sale side is like a marriage. It's not tactical and it's about feelings. It is heavily driven by feelings. And I think boards, sales, historically, especially for larger corporations, mostly male dominated. It hasn't really been, even talking feelings in business wasn't allowed for the longest time. I honestly think that they're just not comfortable with it. So never mind the numbers, because the numbers are the rational side.
Right.
The emotional side goes, oh my God, like we got to go from our customers are happy to unhappy. It's feelings. I don't want to deal with that. Let's fiddle around with maybe entering a new market instead, because I know how that works. I honestly think, I don't think it's conscious, but that's what I see as the biggest driver of this. And part of the reason why I think customer success is so successful is because you have a group of people who want to help and serve others to achieve their goals. It's touchy-feely, and it's about 50% men and about 50% women in there. So it's equal numbers. And I think that's one of the main reasons why customer success has been so successful.
Right. Yeah.
Is because of that. These are people who naturally are looking to build long-term relationships.
Yeah. The type of person doing the job is critical.
I think companies, though, see customers as numbers, and it becomes too easy, especially if you're talking high volume. They're
Especially
just
with high
numbers.
volume.
Yeah, they're just numbers. So X number of people churned, X number of people retained. This is how much money we got. This is how much money we lost. Like at that point, it's so abstract, which is why I really recommend the C-suite or anyone who is in a non-customer facing job, at least once a month, get on a couple of phone calls with customers and just chat with them.
Yeah.
It's called a listening tour. Just take a listening tour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. Talk to them. And it brings you down into what you said, Dan. That person took their time and money, not how can we gain greater market share and all of that.
But the CEOs, the CMO, the CRO, they're all, even if they wanted to do that, they're not rewarded for that. And when something isn't rewarded, and even if they did want to, okay, so you're the CEO and you're going up to your Series B, right? You've got to stand in front of that VC and they're going to say, how many net new logos did you get in the last quarter?
Right.
They didn't say, hey, how much did you decrease churn? They're not going to ask you that. How many customers did you win back? How many customers did you talk to? No. How many net new logos? That's what
They do ask now more and more VCs about churn.
Series D, C.
No, all the way through now. It's changing.
Really? Oh.
Well, again, Salesforce and Atlassian and Snowflake and PagerDuty, all of these companies have done really well. Now, again, I'm talking in SaaS. I don't know outside of SaaS necessarily, but certainly in SaaS, churn is becoming a bigger and bigger metric that they're looking at and considering, because the more customers churn, the more it affects your profits. But because again, new customers are more expensive than keeping your current ones. So it affects growth and it affects profits.
I guess that's why customer success exploded in the last, 10, 12 years?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 15, I think, max. It hasn't been around that long, but they're getting it.
Salesforce had it in like the 90s, but nobody really made it into a thing until at least 2005, 2010. That's my impression anyway.
Yep.
Okay, wow. We went long.
Totally. Yeah, we did. Hey, but this is great. So do you want one last Winback example quickly?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to tell you about Teespring, which is a little different from my Starbucks example at the beginning. And they actually had an ad that came out, an email that came out that said, come back with a question mark. Okay. So they're, hey, maybe not. Let's show you what I got. And it's actually a cute little puppy with its paw up and it's adorable. But basically what they do is they show the value of being a customer and what you missed. When you were using their app, you say you sold this many products, you made this much money, and this was your success rate when you were with us. So the reason why I like it is because they're not offering money. They're showing you the value you're missing, which coming from customer success and showing customers value, that in many ways better than the financial incentive if you're able to do that. So I just wanted to show those two alternatives to Winback. So one is showing value as in Teespring, and then the second one is offering some sort of discount like Starbucks did.
I love those. David's Tea sent out an offer. And basically, what is a beautifully designed thing, just like the Starbucks was. And they had a little organic Earl Grey tea in it and one packet. And they did a beautiful job. But then they had to claim it. They had this 9 or 10 letter PMFJWQ4 code you had to go put in to get the 20%. And you couldn't get it if it was on sales. I don't want to crap all over David's. I'm sure they're a wonderful company.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, again, it comes down to feelings. Is a company fear-based? As in, oh, everybody's going to take advantage and scam us with this? Or are they a company that says, okay, we see our customers as partners, as a relationship that we'd like to keep. And we realize that it won't work for all of them. The other thing is you can segment. If they came from your top 20% of that churned from your customers, you should be pulling out vastly different offers than for someone who's in your bottom 20% of your customers. They should not be having the exact same offer put in front of them. And I think that's a critical oversight, is you need to segment. I think I did mention it earlier. So be like an orange, be segmented.
That's a good way of remembering it. Yeah, segmentation is critical. So is there anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, talk to your customers. And if you want help, reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Anita Talk, and just DM me and then we'll chat from there.
Fantastic. Tons of great insights.
Yeah, thanks.